Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm John. This is Nothing But Drums. And what I want to share today is an interview I did a few years ago on my public access channel with Sara Romweber. She used to play with the Dex Womweber duo, and she was on tour with the Dex Womweber duo, which is her brother. And she also used to play for Snatches of Pink and Less Active. So this interview was done in 2011 here in Charlotte. It was a great interview. It's really neat. She's an excellent drummer and a very sweet person. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us, but I do want to share this with everyone on YouTube and to show like what a really good drummer she was, and that it should be, you know, people should check this out. So thanks again. This is Nothing But Drums, and this is Sara Romweber. Let's get to it.
So lonely to the cold. Can you hear a little whisper?
Came up with that? That's
Came
like
up with a paint marker.
that looks like a dry erase marker.
It's like the mustard marker, but it works.
That is so funny. Okay, well you got it. I don't know where Dex is. Just look in a dark corner and you'll find him.
Right on.
He's out there. What is your name?
Chip.
Want me to sign it?
You can do whatever you want to, man.
I'm gonna sign it
After
to
you
you.
tore those drums up, you can do whatever you want.
So Sarah, tell me, you're playing with the Dex Womweber duo now. How many dates on this tour that you guys are kicking off with?
I don't know. I know that we're out for 3.5 weeks. We're going to circle the entire country except for the Northeast, right? So we're going all the way down through the desert. We're going through Texas, you know, and through the desert up through California, all the way to Seattle. And then at that point, we're going to drive to Chicago. And that's 31 hours of driving. One life. I know. And I thought 31 hours, and then they said, yeah, of driving. I went, oh my goodness.
Now you've been playing drums, gosh, for more than over 20 years. What's different about it now than when you first started?
Well, oddly enough, when I was Dexter's first drummer, and he was the first guitarist I played with, a lot of things happened in between, right? We were kids when we started out. We had a great band. It was called Crash Landon and the Kamikazes, right? And our lead singer, his name was Hunter Landon, so he was Crash Landon. And that was, in many ways, the greatest band I was ever in. That was so much fun. It was very 60s. We did songs like Sea Cruise, and we did Paul Revere and the Raiders. We even did a Monkees song.
Cool.
We were little kids, and we got to play in clubs, and our parents had to come because we weren't old enough to go.
How old were you?
We were like 13, 14. We were really young. And thank you.
You guys have a good tour.
All
Thanks
right.
so much.
Bye-bye. And anyway, so between it's like bookends for me. So there's novels have been written between this time. And when Dexter had a drummer, the last drummer before me, and he wasn't able to do some of the shows, and so I think things happened where he wasn't able to play tour anymore. And so Dex asked if I would be willing to play with him, right? And at that point, I'd been studying drums from around the world, different drums, Middle Eastern instruments,
Wow.
right? Okay. And I hadn't pulled my drums out in quite some time. I mean, a couple of years.
You mean like the kit? You haven't
Yeah,
pulled
my drum kit. Yeah, and it seemed like an eternity, but really it was only about 1.5 years that they were in cases. But I was working hard and studying these other rhythms, and flamenco. That was something that I studied pretty heavily. So he asked me, brought out the drums, dusted them off, right? And I'm not kidding you, within the first song, it felt like it did when we were kids. And I know that memories are like that. You know, something will trigger it, and suddenly you'll start feeling the same feelings, right? And it's been like that through all of this. And I'm not sure if that's what it's been like for him, but So when you say what's different now, well, actually now not much is different than when I started. It feels like when I started.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you got away from the kit, was it refreshing to try to do these other rhythms, something different?
Oh, absolutely.
Challenging?
Yeah. Yes, very challenging. The kind of music he plays, it's the music that I had been playing between this. A lot of it was more like, it was rock and roll, but more along the lines of the Stones from the 70s, and on, moving on Zeppelin. It was not this kind of rhythm.
You're referring to Snatches of Pin?
Yes, yeah, and Snatches never did rhythms in 6/8 or anything like that, right? Dexter's music is very rhythmic, and so I didn't have to do a lot of research because I grew up with him, and his music has always been a part of my life. So.
Who would you say is your biggest influence to get you started playing the drum kit?
I'll tell you, for me, well, where I started, this is how it started. I was listening. I listened in our house. I have 7 brothers and sisters, right? Lots of music in our house, lots and lots. But Led Zeppelin was my favorite band, and the Who was.
I was going to say that. It looks
God.
like you're a big Keith Moon fan.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, I sound more like Keith. I mean, when I play, but actually Bonham was the one that inspired me to play. And I learned to play while trying to learn the drum parts of Physical Graffiti, right? And so this is a long time ago. And I had my little drum kit in the second story of our house, that we lived in. And the floor would bounce, because my kick drum, I was really learning the rhythms. And of course I couldn't learn them the Bonham could play them, but I learned my version of them. But the needle kept skipping right across the thing. So I would walk over there, and kids today don't know to do this, but you could stack nickels on top of the end of the needle, on top of the stylus. It pushes the needle deeper into the grooves. And I always thought Physical Graffiti sounded better that way, being pushed in like that. But Bonham for me was everything. I can't play like him, but when I listened to Led Zeppelin, I would get a certain feeling, and I didn't want to rely on anybody to create that feeling, so I started playing the drums so I could create it in myself, so I didn't have to have anybody else to do it, and of course that's eventually what happened.
Do you still have as much fun now as you did when you first started with Dex?
Oh yeah, well
Or just playing drums in general, I should say.
Yeah, with drums in general, because when you're in a band, you travel a lot, and touring can be really rough, and in playing with a sibling is very comforting in one way because you know them so well. You don't have to entertain them. But the other side of that is that you know each other's stories, so you really don't have a lot to say, which in a way is nice because then you don't have to wear yourself out during the day entertaining bandmates. You can just sort of relax and then get to the show. But there is a certain feeling when you play that, and you probably know this. I'm assuming you're a drummer as well.
Yeah, I've been playing since I was 14, and I'm 18 now.
Cool.
I'm kidding.
I was gonna say.
No, I've been playing for 25 years now.
Yeah, and you keep playing because you get that feeling. Like if we didn't, we'd go be,
Yeah, I lived in an apartment for about a year, and I couldn't play my kit at all. It was really tough.
That's really depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Yeah.
I did it anyway, though. My neighbors didn't like it very much.
No, of course not. It's not just disruptive to the house; it's disruptive to the entire neighborhood. Yeah, it's a great instrument. However, as loud as the instrument is, I find it to be a very melodic instrument too. So one of my favorite things to do when I wake up, a cup of coffee, have my pink puffy slippers on, and I sit behind the kit, and it just might be the ride cymbal and the kick drum, nothing else. Coffee cup is left there, and it's just there's a lot going on there. And if you work on tuning your drums, it can be a beautifully melodic instrument. It doesn't have to just be. And I wish drummers would explore that a little more. These days, as I got older, the sun rises and sets between John Bonham and Elvin Jones. I play nothing like either one of them. I wish I could. you know, of course, I'll be trying until the day I die, I'm sure. But those two, you know, they pretty much said it all as far as rock and roll and jazz. But of course, Buddy Rich improved all those.
Of course.
You know.
So
Yeah.
you recorded with Jack White not too long ago with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? Now, he's a drummer himself, so did you guys get to collaborate at all, or was it just strictly recording, or did you guys get to talk drums at all?
Yeah, we didn't talk drums, right? We didn't. We showed up at his studio. He had everything ready to go. And because he's such a famous producer, I had thought that perhaps he would manage everything, you know, just keep his hands on everything. But when, you know, he played bass on it, and he also played guitar, and he sang. But when we were doing the basic tracks, Jack had a bass on it. And every idea Dex and I had was used, it was explored. He never said, no, don't do that, or don't. He never tried to micromanage anything. The creativity was just flying, you know, all the time. It was a blast working with him.
What do you think of Jack as a drummer?
He's a great drummer. Are you kidding me? He does stuff I couldn't do. I'd have to work on it really hard, you know. He's a great drummer. He's a great musician, and I think that's why he does so well. And he's also, you know, he's very charismatic, and he's really funny and a very sweet person, and everything about him is really great to work with creatively, right? You know, so I can say that he has earned all the attention that he's gotten. He really does deserve it, whereas a lot of people don't deserve it.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
If you had one thing to say to some young female starting out with drums, and they wanted to play drums, what would you tell them? Some piece of advice.
Yeah, you know, I've had 3 students in my life, and they were, you know, I'm not a teacher, right? I can learn, I can be a teacher, but I'm not a drum teacher. But I've had these 3 students. They were all girls. They were really young girls, right? And they wanted to play drums, and their moms would go, oh, I've heard that there's a female drummer in town. They looked me up. So the first thing I showed them was how to open a beer on the side of the floor tom, you know, and of course they were little girls, you know, and they were laughing like, I don't need to know that, you know. I'm like, well, now you don't, but later on, when you're on stage, there's no beer. If somebody handed it, you're going to need to know this. And the other thing was how to chew gum and play drums without chewing in time with the rhythm, right? Anyway, all 3 went on to be great drummers. Really, really accomplished players, you know, not just in our area, but have gone on to do great things. So, anyway, they always remember. Whenever I see them, they come back to me. I can't remember, you know. But the basics are so important. You have to enjoy practicing, right? There are a lot of musicians that like getting on stage, but they don't really feel comfortable being alone with their instrument. And that's sort of like, it's like dating somebody that you don't want to be alone with. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I want to be seen with this person, but when we're alone, I'm all uncomfortable, and that's not okay. And if that's really what's going on, then get off the stage, because we do not need you.